The formula I wasn't supposed to smell. I make invisible things behave. That's what a junior perfumer is, on the days the lab glass is clean and the clients pretend they have noses. I'm Theo, 34, assistant evaluator at Maison, a century-old house with ceilings that encourage secrets and a founder whose portrait smells faintly of iris if you've been in the maceration room too long. My job is to sit between art and solvent and decide if a story will live on skin or die in a focus group. The morning this started, Paris was the color of a nickel, and our creative director, Camille, walked into the organ room with a strip in her hand and a problem in her jaw. Project 19, she said, voice low enough to imply lawyers, left the building last night. Project 19 was a hush word for a spring launch that smelled like rain, emphatically choosing whose balcony to fall on. It was built around an accord Camille kept in a locked steel cabinet. Osmanthus cleaned of its apricot with a peeled metal aldehyde, a cumin politeness, a labdanum shadow. I'd helped her tune the musk to sit closer to skin, less laundry, more pulse. I had never seen her look afraid of a strip before. "Who has the key?" I asked, already calculating how many doors I walked through yesterday, which ones might confess. "3 people," she said, "me, Henry in compliance, and our investor who insists on being charming," she exhaled. Luke Garnier requested a midnight tour for a friend with exquisite taste. Security shows they entered the compounding room. The steel cabinet is intact. The ledger says nothing moved. And yet, she held up the strip like a priest with a wafer. "I found this under the organ." I took it. Paper remembers. Even before it reached my face, I felt it. A top that pretended to be shy and wasn't. An ozone trick that didn't belong to our accord. And then a bloom I recognized in my bones because I had put it there. The way the musk sank and warmed exactly at 19 minutes. I touched the strip to my wrist and waited. At the edge of the lift, a hiss of something I never show in public. Want. "They have it," I said. "They have a piece," she said. "We're missing 12 micrograms of a very expensive idea. We can reformulate." "We can," she said, "and call it version 2 the way lovers call it compromise." She let me keep the strip with a look that meant don't show anyone, and don't make me forgive you if you do. When she left, I sat alone with shelves of raw materials and the steady heartbeat of the GCMS humming in the adjacent lab. Fear in my job smells like paperwork. This fear smelled like my pulse. Luke showed up that afternoon with a grin in a navy suit. He's the kind of investor whose presence makes dishes clink less loudly. He knows a lot of words for money. He knows fewer for regret. "How is our spring?" he asked, as if we were discussing weather and not theft. "Still raining," I said. He laughed. "Good, keep it raining." The friend with exquisite taste had a name and a face because Paris insists on mirrors. Myra Solange, gallery owner, unofficial ambassador for artists who don't yet know they're famous. I had seen her in photos, all clavicle and uncomplicated gaze. That evening I saw her in person because I am not good at skipping omens. She came to the lab door just before closing, hair twisted, mouth the color of a decision. "Camille?" she asked. "Gone," I said. "I'm the after-hours disappointment." "You're Theo," she said, as if she liked the taste of it. "Luke said you are careful and stubborn in pleasing proportions." "I am proportionate," I said. "Do you need something I can legally provide?" "Advice," she said, "and a nose." "The second one I have," I said. "The first one is priced differently." She came into the organ room like it was a cathedral and moved as if every bottle insisted she square her shoulders. Up close, she smelled faintly of nothing. "That is a choice. I'm choosing between 2 perfumes," she said, "for an opening next month. Luke wants me to wear your new thing. Another house wants me to wear their argument. She smiled. I'd like you to tell me which one makes me look more dangerous. She opened a small velvet pouch and took out 2 vials with anonymous labels, 19A and pale. The restraint was the tell. I held out blotters and she dipped with an unpracticed steadiness. The first cut across the air like bright metal, then softened into apricot ghost and clean heat. Project 19's curve. The second was more obvious, a showstopper with fruit that announced itself 3 rooms ahead and musk that made promises it couldn't afford. Smell them on skin, she said, and held out her wrist with a composure I wanted to undress. You can put the second higher, she added, pulse visible in that small window between vein and cuff. Do you always pose loaded questions in laboratories? I asked. Only when the room will tell me the truth, she said. I touched the paper to her skin and watched the way the alcohol brightened goose flesh. I leaned in. The first wore her like a secret, the second colonized. The skin chose with the indifference of all honest surfaces. My mouth was inches from her wrist. She didn't move. Which am I? She asked. Complicated, I said. That one, pointing to 19A, makes weak people think they are brave. This one, the fruit-heavy pale, makes brave people behave like fools. And you prefer? She asked, tilted toward me. I prefer people who don't outsource their courage to bottle design, I said, and she laughed, and the room's temperature moved 1 degree. She put the vials back. We used your cabinet last night, she said, not apologizing. Luke believes in testing under conditions that feel like sin. You broke NDAs, I said. We bent, she said. The cabinet didn't scream. It doesn't need to, I said, and held up the strip Camille had found. Myra looked at it and then at me and then at the steel cabinet as if it might sprout an opinion. I left that under the organ, she said. Her honesty blew right through my chest. I didn't mean to. He wanted to see if it made me say yes faster. A small smile. It did. We build that effect on purpose, I said. I assumed, she said, and then it followed me home. Her bracelet clicked against the table. I'm sorry for the theft, she said, and the phrase sat between us like a third wrist. But I won't say I regret smelling like that for an hour. It's not about regret, I said. It's about time. Once a thing exists in the wrong room, it begins to exist everywhere. She studied me. Are you asking me to give it back? I'm asking you to forget it, I said. She smiled, tired. Men ask women to forget all the time, she said. Why should a smell be different? I didn't have a good answer. We stood too near in a room built for memory. She reached out, 2 fingers just touching the front of my shirt, a riskiest of small gestures. Still there? She asked. Still, I said, and we both heard what I just admitted. She left with the vials in her pouch and a promise to choose something that breaks the right hearts. When the door latched behind her, the room felt suddenly full of witnesses. Camille wanted a plan. The plan involved rebalancing at the base, hiding our curve under a new shape. We spent 3 days in the compounding room, eyes stinging, writing small numbers as if they were spells. We pushed the musks away from powder and toward skin, swapped a transparent wood for a shy leather, tugged that metal his top note 2 minutes earlier so the bloom would happen when the wearer wasn't expecting it. While we built version 2, the rest of the house built a narrative. PR words like evolution and micro-iteration. Luke came by with champagne and a grin and kisses for cheeks that had never agreed to kisses. You artists, he said, always chasing perfection. We're chasing you, Camille said. You're in the way. Luke laughed. Charm me and stop worrying. Myra is loyal. She will wear ours. She is loyal to herself, I said too quickly. He looked at me a beat too long. Then we should make ourselves irresistible, he said. That night my phone buzzed with a message from a number I hadn't given out. I chose Café en Rue des Trois Frères, 10 M. The cafe had sugar stuck under its fingernails and a view of people who could afford not to hurry. Myra sat in the corner in a charcoal sweater and the kind of jeans that make you understand fabric. She wasn't wearing perfume, and somehow the absence felt like a proposition. "I owe you honesty," she said. "I wore pale yesterday for a lunch with a donor. He threw money at the problem. It worked. I felt dirty and effective." She looked at me straight. "Tonight I want to wear yours." "The new one isn't finished," I said. "I didn't say yours the way Luke would say yours," she said. "I meant you, your mouth on my wrist telling me where the smell should soften. Don't mistake my ethics for a vow of celibacy." She took my hand and placed my fingers lightly under her jaw where the skin is thin and drama is cheap. "Make a recommendation." I put the back of my free hand to my own throat, a ritual to remind my body there is temperature that isn't her. "Version 2, I said. "Right now it's a little colder on paper and warmer on skin. It forgives slower." "Good," she said. "I've had enough quick absolution." We didn't kiss in the cafe. We did what you do when you understand that 2 inches is a paragraph longer than either of you can read. When she stood, she brushed past, and the small electricity of fabric on fabric sent my discipline down the stairs ahead of me to make sure someone caught it. The lab the next morning smelled like victory and compromise. Camille approved the revision. Henry, in compliance, printed a proud certificate that said the formula we just finalized matched the formula we'd never released. Everyone lied in the correct direction. Luke scheduled a dinner. Dinner at Maison Garnier is the kind of theater where the waiter is a character and the butter is a monologue. Myra arrived at 9 wearing black and version 2. Luke greeted us like family he had paid for. Camille tolerated him with grace. We sat at a round table under a chandelier that had forgiven a lot. "I like to think of perfume as a vote," Luke said. "You broadcast who you agree to be." "Votes can be bought," Camille said. "Not always," Myra said, eyes on me. Heat rose under my collarbone. Halfway through the second course, a woman materialized at Luke's elbow, a red dress, a face that could convince officials to stamp papers faster, the attention economy in soft curls. "You didn't tell me you had Theo tonight," she said to Luke, like a line she'd practiced. "Your junior perfumer with the decent hands." "This is Nika," Luke said, amused. "She knows our world." I did know her, not personally, online. A consultant for 3 houses at once in the way that only someone very useful to all of them could be. There was a hint of aldehyde on her that didn't belong to us. She leaned toward me as if we were old friends. "You're the one who tuned the musk," she said. "I recognize the way it waits." "I like waiting," I said. "Do you?" she asked, fingertip tapping the stem of her glass. "I've heard otherwise." Myra's gaze sharpened. Luke looked interested the way cats look at glasses of water. Nika smiled. "It's sweet when artists think strip logs don't get photographed," she said. "Or when steel cabinets aren't also calendars. Project 19 is lovely. It was even lovelier last week." Camille set down her fork like a verdict. "Are you accusing us of stealing our own work?" Nika glanced at Luke, who didn't blink. "I'm saying someone auditioned for us using your score," she said. "We passed on the role. Your girl plays it better." Myra's fingers tightened on her napkin, a small intention made visible. In that breath, I understood the shape of the trap. If Luke could prove we had lost control of our formula, He could justify steering us into a merger that would turn art into quarterly returns. If a rival could prove he had turned us into a pipeline, we'd be cheaper to buy. I stood. I'm going to get air, I said, which is perfumer for I am about to do something unwise. Myra stood too. We did not need to coordinate with our mouths. Outside on the balcony, the cold made version 2 bloom in restrained shock. The city below was busy pretending to be a movie. He's using you, I said to Myra. I'm using him, she said. He gets art that flatters his portfolio. I get rooms I couldn't afford and the occasional sense of leverage. Tonight I chose you. That is not a promise for tomorrow. It's a sentence I want to speak right now. She stepped into me. We did not destroy anything. We built a small frame around a longer hunger and hung restraint inside it. Her mouth near my ear, my palm at her lower back. The worst thing stayed imagined because I am tired of apologies that smell like cigarettes. If someone had filmed us, they could have sold ads. If someone had asked me whether I was proud, I would have offered a difficult truth and a request for more time. We went back in. Luke smiled as if he'd been paid. Nika smirked as if she'd get paid later. Camille rolled her eyes at me in a way that said she'd yell tomorrow and hug next week. Henry texted me the kind of message compliance sends when it loves you but loves its job more. Launch day, the house was Lily's and expectation. The bottle was good, clean shoulder, weight like a promise. The press release was dishonestly honest. Myra wore version 2 and said words about skin and sky meeting on the city's shoulder that made me forgive language for a minute. Nika posted a story tagging 2 competitors and a question mark. Luke waited for numbers. In my pocket, a single strip. The first formula faded to almost. I sometimes smell it like a memorial and a lesson. People ask me what perfume is. I say, a story you tell at the radius of your body. They ask if stories can be stolen. I say, of course. They ask if love can be bottled. I say, if you like disappointment. Last week, Myra came by the lab alone. She stood in the doorway like a person who knows which rooms are worth keeping. I'm leaving Luke's portfolio, she said. We're founding something smaller, fewer zeros, more choices. That will smell wonderful, I said. She crossed the room, touched the front of my shirt with 2 fingers, the old liturgy. Still there. Still, I said. We didn't kiss. We let version 2 become the only weather in the room and agreed that sometimes intrigue keeps you honest by making you choose which secrets deserve oxygen. The cabinet stayed locked. The ledger stayed mostly, beautifully true. And somewhere, in a rival lab across town, someone tried to imitate our curve and failed in a way that made their accountants weep. Good. Perfume evaporates. That's the heartbreak and the mercy. You wear something brave, the world breathes it, and then it's gone, leaving only the part it taught your skin to remember. I go back to the organ, lift a bottle, and ask a question only my nose can hear. Most days, the answer is enough. On the other days, I walk out onto the balcony where the city is honest and the air is cold, and I put my wrist to my mouth and check. Still there.